Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement regarding a bipartisan approach to children's welfare in New Zealand that, quote, "It's tricky because ultimately it's about spending decisions across a whole lot of different areas you need to consider," end quote?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Is he again ruling out a cross-party approach to children's policy in New Zealand, as he did in November 2009?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, it depends on what the member means by that. If the member is saying, can Parliament work together, different political parties, to try and tackle issues like child abuse and the likes, then I think Parliament has a role for that and political parties should try and work together. And I think if I was to characterise the mood of Parliament, I'd say there's a universal view that actually all parliamentarians and all political parties want to work to address that issue. But I think we also need to be realistic and say that political parties have a different approach to different issues. There would be many areas where Labor would simply not agree with National in terms of its approach in this area, and vice versa. And to pretend otherwise would actually be an inaccurate way of portraying that. And we're far better to have what's going to happen on November the 26th. That's called a general election, and put our policies to the people of New Zealand.
Mr Speaker, is he aware that a significant number of major organisations working with children in New Zealand are asking for a cross-party approach to children's policy? That is, the parties in this House sit down and work together on what we ought to be doing for children in New Zealand, and if so, would he not at least sit down with other parties in this House to see what agreement there could be on a future pathway and what could be achieved?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I'm aware of other organisations calling for that. Secondly, I think the Green Paper process actually allows different stakeholders and interested parties to come together to actually debate those issues. And thirdly, Mr Speaker, I'd refer the member to the letter that she wrote to me on the 28th of July. In the letter, what she goes on in paragraph 3 to say is, it would require, this is in relation to cross-party support, it would require genuine involvement, shared decision-making. Mr Speaker, we are the government, and by definition we're held account as being the government, and I think that makes that very difficult.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Does he agree with Sir Peter Gluckman and Lord Robert Winston, speaking on Q&A last weekend, that investing in the early years of a child's life will have long-term benefits? And if so, why is his starting point to talk about short-term spending decisions rather than seeking an agreement on what needs to be done?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, and we're not. We're having a green paper to do exactly that.
The Honourable Annette.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. So why then did the Prime Minister rule out talking to other parties and said it was tricky because we have to talk about spending priorities? Why not talk about what we need to do for children, and there's commitments from parties all around this House, rather than being so arrogant as to say you won't sit down and talk?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'm happy to talk to parties, and I'm sure the Minister who has responsibilities in this area will be more than happy to engage with the Labor Party and other political parties that are interested in this area. But the reality, Mr Speaker, is in the end there will be a variety of decisions that will need to be made as a result of that, and it's very unlikely there will be bipartisan support on all of those.
Question number 5, Nicky Wagner.